I call Penny Hanare.
Tēnā koe, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for this opportunity. I find it ironic that a former lobbyist for the tobacco industry gets up and preaches to this House about health and how the member seems to think that food isn't important in the recovery of those who need the valuable services of a hospital. Furthermore, Mr. Speaker, as my people, the Māori people, see rising rates of diabetes, rising rates of obesity, I wonder then, does that member truly think that food is not relative to health? Mr. Speaker, in this country, where I believe that in this country, Mr. Speaker, that democracy in communities is a right and not a privilege. I believe that this particular bill, Mr. Speaker, will suspend those democratic rights that belong to the communities of the Deep South. This House has spoken about the voices of the people. It's important that those voices are heard, Mr. Speaker. We understand the need for good financial management. We understand that. We want to see our DHBs receive the money and manage the money accordingly so that the communities those DHBs look after get the vital services that they need. That is very important, and we want to see that in the Southern DHB. However, Mr. Speaker, it is with some apprehension we support this bill knowing that it will suspend the democratic rights of the people in the Deep South. We believe that their voices are important in the ongoing conversation of their health needs moving forward. This House has spoken about the submissions made by Ngaitahu. They have also spoken about the submissions made by Te Waipounamu, Te Pūtahitanga o Te Waipounamu. I mentioned at the beginning of my speech, Mr. Speaker, the critical needs of the Māori communities. And it's important that groups like Ngaitahu, groups like Te Pūtahitanga o Te Waipounamu find voice to advocate for their people's needs in such important health management structures. Therefore, while we look at this bill and see that there is some pressure to be applied onto the Commissioner to make sure that they do find a voice, we on this side of the House will be making sure that indeed that is what happens, Mr. Speaker, that it isn't simply a box-ticking exercise, one where we think we call a meeting, people come in, we have a 1.5 hour discussion, we have a cup of tea, the box is ticked. Conversations in that meeting stop right at the end as the cup of tea is being poured. Mr. Speaker, it's important that voices like Te Runanga o Ngaitahu and Te Pūtahitanga o Te Waipounamu are heard in the DHB. Mr. Speaker, I feel it timely to remind the House just how critical a hospital is to a community. The issues facing the Dunedin Hospital have been well recorded. This side of the House, led by the members Mr. Clark and Claire Curran, have pushed hard to make sure that this government realises that, to make sure that the Dunedin Hospital isn't just something that's planned on paper, but is actually seen by the people of Dunedin, that the people of Dunedin can receive the services that they so desperately need and, in my opinion, deserve, Mr. Speaker. We notice that despite regular engagements by the Commissioner with our external stakeholders, Mr. Speaker, there are still some concerns about transparency. This goes back to making sure that the voices of the people are heard in the management of the health services in the Southern District. It's important that transparency is there so that the debate that is currently flying across the House, Mr. Speaker, with regard to the food quality contracted by the Commissioner to serve the people in the Deep South is clear and transparent to the people of Southland to make sure they know the processes that took place and are informed about the decisions made and the services that they receive. So while we understand that there will be pressure placed on the Commissioner to make sure that those transparency measures are in place, We on this side of the House, Mr. Speaker, will be making sure that that is indeed what happens. Mr. Speaker, whatever happens from here on out, with the suspension of the democratic rights of those people, we want to make sure, and we will be keeping a very keen eye on this particular process to make sure that come 2019, those democratic rights are fully restored. Not partly restored, but fully restored. So that come 2019, the Southern District Health Board will be in a strong position to continue to deliver the services to the people of the Deep South, Mr. Speaker. To me, Mr. Speaker, this is about doing what's right. It's about doing what's right by the community. It's about doing what's right by those who need the services, the critical services, to make sure that our elderly, to make sure that the young, to make sure that the vulnerable receive the services that they receive. Get the services, that they so desperately need. It's important too, Mr. Speaker, to make sure that the health industry or the district health boards across the country maintain the confidence of the New Zealand public. And that can only happen, sir, when transparency is there and in place. It can only happen, sir, when the voices of the people are heard. It can only happen, sir, with strong fiscal management. It can only happen, sir, when democracy will be returned back to the people of the Deep South. Because it isn't just about the Deep South. We, on this side of the House, hear regular concerns from across the country about the critical health services that they feel they aren't getting. And it's important, sir, that this particular process and this particular bill, the New Zealand Public Health and Disability Elections Bill, this particular bill maintains that integrity so that the New Zealand public can have faith, and the New Zealand public can have faith in the services that are available to them. Mr. Speaker, we on this side of the House have faith in the processes in this particular House. And it is with some surprise we do hear some of the comments made or challenges made towards the Labour Party. One recently made by the member from New Zealand First. So it's important that throughout the entire process, I understand that the Health Select Committee entered into strong, robust debate about this particular bill, which has made us arrive to this point where we on this side of the House will be supporting it. But let me remind this House, sir, in conclusion, that we will be making sure that democracy will be restored to the people of the Deep South. We will be keeping a keen eye on this minister and the bill to make sure that the people in the Deep South get what they deserve. Kia ora, Mr. Speaker.
I call Dr. Shane.